Hey, so welcome back to the Music Matters Academy. We have a proper treat in store for you this afternoon. We have Merck Mercuriadis, one of the most exciting names and influential names in the music business today. He's going to be joining us now. Again, I just want to say a few thank yous to a few people. Thank you to YouTube, to Believe, to Dolby, and to Steinberg Protocol for making all of this possible. But before we meet Merck, I want to say hello to Ralph Simon. Now, Ralph, I think everyone knows Ralph. He is the greatest. He's the greatest interviewer in the world. He is everyone's mentor. Now, Ralph, where in the world are you today?
I am in Italy and right in a place called Siena, which is a beautiful place where great artistry and creativity has always been a tradition, and it is incredible today to be joining you, Jasper, in Singapore and going with Music Matters Academy all over the world. We're going to India, we're going to Asia Pacific, we're going to Australia, we're going to New Zealand, and we've got some really fantastic stuff coming up in just a few minutes.
So thank you, Ralph. Now, I will say to everyone now that Siena and the internet don't go hand in hand. We've had a few tech issues with the connection there. So if you see a slight delay on Ralph's audio, and if you hear a little bit of choppy, then we do apologize. But it's because of the internet that we can have Ralph in Siena talking to Merck today. But so Ralph, I'm going to ask you two questions before the session starts, because
Sure.
No one gets to ask you questions. Where did you start, and how did you get your first break in music?
I started at high school. I had a band that became very popular, and fortunately we got a recording contract and put out a couple of records. They were not successful. That then led me to become a concert promoter and a music publisher, and that then led to starting a record company. And then it was basically foot on the pedal, pedal to the metal, metal to the pedal, and off from there.
And tell me, which artists have you worked with through your career?
I've worked with Iron Maiden, that was very involved in the signing of Iron Maiden, and worked closely with our guest Merck Mercuriadis there, where he was one of the managers of Iron Maiden, and then also worked with people like AC/DC and Def Leppard, and worked with Radiohead, and worked with many great artists and producers, and was always looking at songs and how songs could make a difference in people's lives.
And tell me finally, what excites you the most for artists in today's music industry?
The most exciting thing, I think, obviously it's still all about songs, because no matter what happens on radio or online or streaming, and of course streaming has absolutely transformed the way that talent and artists and songwriters can be developed. But the thing that excites me most is that today artists have got a huge palette with which they can paint their songs, their sounds, their textures, and reach a bigger audience than ever before.
Okay, so Ralph, I'm going to wish you all the best from now. Now, there are a few tech issues with a delay here. If that carries on, you can quickly reboot and you can rejoin us. But Ralph, over to you, and thank you so much for joining us from Italy today.
Thank you very much. Okay, so everybody, this is a very, very, very special moment for the Music Matters Academy, and I'm very pleased to welcome from London, from the UK, the great and really astonishing executive, dreamer, thinker, creator, and champion of composers and songwriters, Merck Mercuriadis. Welcome to the Music Matters Academy.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ralph. Always wonderful to be with you. I'm delighted that Jasper asked you a few questions. And I'm also delighted that you particularly pointed out your relationship with Iron Maiden and AC/DC and Def Leppard, because you're not just someone that has transformed the space in terms of the post-digital, world and media, bringing music and media together, but your role, and I can speak firsthand, your role in the lives of the guys in Iron Maiden and the guys in AC/DC and the guys in Def Leppard is you know, transformative. You're a big part of making those artists what they are today, and you never get enough credit for it. So I'm always going to be here to point out the major role that you played, and that's why I'm always going to show up when you ask me to.
Thank you very, very much. That is great. Merck, we want to get right into it if you don't mind. And I'm going to come to you with some short questions. You could give us short answers so that many of the audience who might not be aware of you and your deep background of managing talent like Elton John, talent like Beyonce. But here are some questions for you. One, who are you? Where are you? What do you do? And what's your background? And what do you tell your friends you do for a living?
I'm Merck Mercuriadis. I'm currently in the Cotswolds, but will be on my way back to London shortly. For my sins, I always have to be somewhere near Arsenal Football Club. Hopefully, they'll get it right going forward, but right now we don't. I'm the founder and CEO of Hipgnosis Songs. We are a FTSE 250 company, $2.5 billion invested in songs. I believe that songs are the energy that makes our world go around. They're the currency of our business. If you don't like the song, you don't buy the t-shirt. If you don't like the song, you don't go and see the band play live. If you don't like the song, you don't push play on Spotify. It all starts with the song, as you quite rightly point out. And the endeavor of Hipgnosis Songs is, number one, to establish songs firmly as an asset class that can rival golden oil. Two, to use that success as the leverage to change where the songwriter sits in the economic equation. And three, to destroy what I think is now an old paradigm, which is called publishing, and replace it with song management. I think that these songs should be managed with the same responsibility that you manage artists with.
So, Merck, one of the first songwriters that you'd signed with Hipgnosis, and by the way, you started this company in 2017. So in 3.5 years, you've achieved what generally, and I would say specifically, no one else has ever done, where you've basically taken something from scratch. You have signed songs, including 11 of the biggest ever streamed titles on the internet. And effectively, you've developed a business, as you say, with a valuation of about £2.5 billion pounds or dollars, is it, Merck?
Dollars.
$2.5 billion, and in doing so have completely changed the paradigm of the music business. Here's what Nile Rodgers says about you. You have to demonstrate to songwriters, artists, and producers that you're the right pair of hands for them to put their children in, children being their songs. You can't do that if you've never spent time dealing with great artists, writers, and producers in helping them achieve their dreams. And you've done that by buying the rights and working with composers with some 60,000 songs. Tell us about that.
This all started with the endeavor of changing where the songwriter sits in the economic equation. The songwriter delivers the most important component in our business, the song. Everyone's success starts from that song, and yet they are the low man or woman in the economic equation, and they deserve to get paid more. And as I sort of researched why the songwriter was not being paid properly, I came to the conclusion that unfortunately it's down to the fact that the three biggest song companies in the world don't advocate for songwriters because they're owned by the three biggest recorded music companies in the world. And on the recorded music side of the business, they're getting 4/5 of the revenue. They're getting an 80% gross margin, a 40% net margin. And in general, they own those rights in perpetuity. They own those master recordings in perpetuity. Very few artists actually own their own master recordings. Conversely, on the song side of the business, you've got 1/5 of the revenue, you've got 1/5 of the margin, and quite rightly, whether it's through good management and lawyering in the first place, or whether it's down to reversions and renegotiations, those songs end up back in the hands of the artists and songwriters that co-created them. So it's not in the best interest of Universal, Warner, and Sony to share that money fairly with songwriters. They use their leverage of recorded music owning and controlling publishing, the three biggest publishing companies in the world, to push that money towards recorded music where it's theirs. And I knew that we needed to change this paradigm. And I knew that ultimately that, that required severe leverage, significant leverage, I should say, and to build a multi-billion-dollar company that could then fight that fight. And that's why I created Hipgnosis Songs and why I brought it to the public markets, because I was certain that the public markets would recognize that these great proven songs have very predictable and reliable income, and therefore that they're investable, and that we could bring the biggest institutional shareholders in the world to back songs as an asset class and give us the leverage that we needed to fight the fight on behalf of songwriters.
So effectively, you've now built this into one of the top 250 companies on the British Stock Exchange, a massive thing, and your tenacity is legendary. You approached 177 companies when you first wanted to develop the idea and raise some money for Hipgnosis Songs, and only 38 of them responded to you, but you kept on, and basically you felt that the future of songwriting, of being songwriters champions, is really something. And I'm pleased to say that on this particular streamcast we're doing today, we're going to New Zealand, we're going to Australia, we're going all over Asia Pacific, where obviously songwriters are watching and listening, and music publishers and catalog owners are watching and listening. Tell us how you think. Tell us how you come up with songs. You've bought the Red Hot Chili Peppers songs. You bought Shakira's "Hips Don't Lie" and "Waka Waka," "She-Wolf." Tell us about some of the others that you've had, and we'll get into some of the interesting people that you're now working with.
Well, from Neil Young, through to the greatest songwriters and producers in the world: Neil Young, Lindsey Buckingham, and Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac. Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics, Mark Ronson, Timbaland. I could talk all day about the wonderful songwriters that have allowed us to become the custodians of their catalogs. And they're all songwriters that believe in the mission. And they're all songwriters who now have had their futures de-risked by the deals that they've made with us, and are now able to help the songwriting community make decisions that are in the best interest of the songwriting community. One of the things that's very key for me as I go forward is that I'm going to help form a songwriters guild that most of the majority of our songwriters, as well as most of the great songwriters that I've spoken to that are not a part of Hipgnosis, will become a part of. And this is a songwriters guild that will have, Hipgnosis won't own it. It'll be owned by the songwriters. It'll be for the songwriters. I'll just be the facilitator of it. But the purpose of this guild will be to make decisions going forward for the songwriting community, decisions that have been made as a consensus of songwriters, and that will act very much in the same way that the Screenwriters Guild does in America, where every 3 years they walk into the movie companies and they say, listen, it's wonderful that you've got this actress and that actor, these superstars to be in the film, but you're not going to get to make this film unless you have our script, and you're not going to have our script unless you pay our screenwriters properly. And every 3 years, they scream and they shout at each other. They call each other names. They threaten to bring production to a standstill. But at the end of the day, they figure out a way of paying those screenwriters more money. And as they say in Hollywood, everyone lives happily ever after. The same thing has to happen in the music business. I don't believe that there ever has to be a disruptive event. But going forward, what's absolutely critical is that there must never, ever be another negotiation again that determines how a songwriter is paid that doesn't have the songwriter sitting at the table. And I know that there are organizations out there such as the PRS that have a songwriter here on their board or a songwriter there on their board, but I'm not talking about a single songwriter expressing their views and opinions. I'm talking about songwriters that are actually expressing the consensus views of their constituency, all songwriters. And I suppose the message that I would like to send to the songwriters that are watching today or that will be listening later as this goes online or stays online is that the power is yours. You are delivering the most important component to the music industry, right? The superstars that we have today, we have not had a Billboard Top 100 album of the year since 2014 that didn't have an outside songwriter on it, right? Even Coldplay albums today have outside songwriters on them. So the power is yours, and you have to really seriously consider what's in your best interest and what's in the best interest of your community, and make decisions going forward on your own behalf, right? And that's what Hipgnosis in many ways is all about. Yes, it's about establishing songs as an asset class and delivering an unbelievable return to our shareholders so that they in turn are part of the fight on behalf of the songwriting community. And obviously there's a motive there that is in the best interest. You know, what I tried to do with Hipgnosis is create the perfect vehicle. So in this instance, what's in the best interest of songwriters is also in the best interest of our shareholders, and what's in the best interest of our shareholders is also in the best interest of the songwriters, and that's not something any other music company can say.
So, Merck, a couple of things just to point out to our audience. You acquired Uptown Funk, the great hit by the great writer and producer Mark Ronson, Umbrella by Rihanna. You also have the most streamed song of all time with one of your writers, Johnny McDade, who co-wrote with Ed Sheeran, The Shape of You. Also, for example, the Don't Stop Believing, which has been a huge song that's now used by Peloton on their Peloton apps, and has had over 12 billion streams. And you've also got an interest in Despacito, one of the biggest hits of all time. So people are watching this, and there are many songwriters from our audience that are saying, okay, I've written a song, what next?
So, you know, first of all, I need to acknowledge all those wonderful songs that you just mentioned, and you know, there are two criteria for me in bringing songs into the Hipgnosis portfolio. One is that the songs have to have been extraordinarily successful in the first place, and the other criteria is that they have to be of great cultural importance, right? Because it's, you know, in many ways, people feel that we've already established songs as an asset class because we've had this wonderful success. We've given our shareholders a 40% total return since they signed up in 2018. And year on year, we continue to have incredible numbers. And, you know, being a $2.5 billion company, but the job is not done yet, right? This is a long-term you know, endeavor to establish songs as an asset class. And from that point of view, the core principle is that what you buy has to be proven, and it has to have predictable, reliable income. Now, you know, predictable, reliable income on the one hand could be, you know, Bruno Mars, wild pop success. On the other hand, it could be, you know, Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground, or Neil Young, or an artist like that, you know, that have obviously had their hits in the past. But at the end of the day, what they really have is a core audience that are real believers, and that on a yearly basis give those artists very predictable and reliable success. That second component of cultural importance is super important too, because this is an asset class. And one of the things that allows it to be as an asset class is that in general, we have pretty good copyright law around the world that, you know, in most cases is 70 years after the death of the last co-composer. So there's a long-term income stream there if you buy right and you buy well. And that cultural importance, though, is what gives you that endurance, right? There's a lot of artists out there that have had big hits that we won't be talking about in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, right? But I'm quite confident that in the same way that we've been talking about Fleetwood Mac for, you know, at least the last 46 years, if not 60 years, you know, better part of 60 years, you know, but 46 years since Lindsay and Stevie joined Christine in the band and started to have that incredible pop success that they had. but it wasn't just pop success. It was of real cultural importance as well. And 46 years later, those are amongst the most consumed songs of all time and of the last year. And I believe that that will still be the case 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. So, I think for songwriters that are writing today and that want to know how they can become a part of the catalog in the future, it's, write songs, but also make good choices about the artists that you place them with, so that you end up with a scenario where your odds of being successful are much higher than they otherwise would be. Having confidence in your songs and confidence in yourself that they are world class and that you're world class, and that you're delivering world class songs is the difference maker.
So, Merck, when you look at building a company with financial impact, investors are looking for a return on investment. However, you are always on the lookout with songwriters for the return on emotion, the ROE, because it's the emotion of the song that can translate it into a massive hit. Tell us about two very current, very important writers that you work with. One is Jack Antonoff, a very prolific producer that you've become involved with, and also Pooh Bear, that a lot of those that are watching this would certainly be aware of those two names.
So Jack Antonoff, when you look at the artists that have entrusted themselves and put themselves in Jack Antonoff's hands, you can start with Taylor Swift and her incredible success. You can go to Lorde, you can go to St. Vincent. Jack has this incredible ability of, again, taking music, when you look at those two concepts that I talked about, extraordinary success and cultural importance, he's one of those people that can bring those two things together under one roof for every artist. So on the one hand, he's helped take Taylor Swift from an artist that was having huge country and pop hits and turn her into somebody that, and by the way, let's be clear that the decisions are Taylor's. So she's a very, very smart woman and a great artist. But he's able to now give her a level of credibility that she didn't have prior to working with Jack Antonoff. Equally well, an artist like Lorde, who he's made two brilliant records with, and I think the new Lorde record is a wonderful record. And St. Vincent, these are two very credible artists that he's also helping to bring pop success to. So he's not unique. He's not the only one in the world doing this, but he's a very, very special pair of hands. And, when you listen to the Bleachers music, and again, the Bleachers have just made a wonderful new album, and you look at his love for someone like Bruce Springsteen and how he takes the past and he brings it into the future and makes it a part of these new records that people are all about. He's doing incredible work. Pooh Bear, on the other hand, is a songwriter that had incredible success with many, many different artists, including our Usher in the early 2000s through 2012 or so. And then he decided to dedicate himself to Justin Bieber. He met Justin Bieber, they started working together, and Justin in many ways, has become an incredible vehicle for Pooh Bear's songs. So when you listen to these songs, Where Are You Now? What Do You Mean? Intentions, these are incredible pop R&B songs that are being tailor-made for one of the most important pop stars in the world today, musical artists in the world today, Justin Bieber. And that's something that's unique as well, in the sense that most songwriters are, putting songs out, and, they might send songs to the artist that they think is perfect for those songs, but rarely are they tailor-making songs for a specific artist. And Pooh Bear has turned that into an art form of itself, where, as I say, he's pretty much been exclusive to Justin Bieber. I'm delighted to say that we've had him with Shakira over the last few weeks, and he and Shakira are writing some incredible songs together. But up to this point, Pooh Bear, for the majority of the last 10 years, has devoted himself to Justin Bieber and has been bespoke writing for Justin Bieber from album to album. Ralph, you're on mute, I think.
The question I want to ask you is, you signed the Red Hot Chili Peppers and bought all of their copyrights. And was that a difficult thing to do? Because people said it was impossible. And yet you managed, someone put a flea in your ear and you managed to sign that band and their royalties.
Well, look, you know, again, going back to the concept of cultural importance, I think that, you know, when you look at the last 38 years, 39 years of music, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, U2, you know, Pearl Jam, Bon Jovi, Nirvana, Soundgarden. I think those are the most credible, important rock bands, the Strokes of that period of time, you know, in terms of, you know, being real rock bands. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers have always, you know, marched to their own drum. They don't take fools, you know, they just don't, you know, they're in a position, being one of the most successful bands in the world, where they can do whatever they want to do, and they don't need to do anything for money. So they weren't ever going to make a deal unless they were in a position where they were going to put their songs into the hands of the right people that could help them manage those songs going forward and reflect well, not only on their legacy, but on their future as well. So obviously it's an incredible honor to be a custodian of their catalog. These are some of the most important songs of the past 35, 36, 37, 38 years. And, you know, we're very, very blessed.
So, Merck, we're tight for time, and I'm just about to introduce Jasper back into the mix with us. But here's a question for you on a personal level, if you don't mind us asking you. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self? If you were 16, you were besotted with songwriting, you wanted to make a success of your career on streaming, you wanted to become a YouTube star, a TikTok star, a Believe star, a YouTube music star, what would you give yourself as advice?
You know, the most important advice that I think I can give anyone is, you know, there's a voice inside you, and you can call that voice your intuition, you can call it the voice of God, you can call, you know, Pete Townsend wrote, you know, once said, you've got to have faith in something bigger than yourself. And trust me, Pete Townsend knows more than most people have forgotten. But I think you have to trust that voice inside you. Quiet the noise down, listen to that voice inside you, and make the decisions that are the right decisions for your career. In my life, I've made many mistakes. You know, I've been in a position where, you know, I've made decisions based on, you know, what I thought was going to bring money. Whenever I've made decisions with that concept in mind, it's never worked out. When I've made decisions that are based on what's right for the music, what serves the music, what serves the song, what serves the artist, they've always been tremendously successful decisions. And I only make decisions on that basis, and only have done for some time now. And I would ask everyone to just consider that when you're making your decisions. Are you making decisions that are serving your songs? Are you making decisions that are serving yourself as an artist or a songwriter, and that are the right thing to do, as opposed to just something that's going to give you short-term gratification and short-term success? It's all about the bigger picture.
Merck, let's go over to Jasper, because I know you have a train that you've got to catch, and we thank you so much for being with us. It's really been a revelation to hear you on this. Jasper, over to you.
Yeah, so Merck, very quickly, and I loved what you said at the beginning. I've been an Arsenal fan since we drew 1-1 with Leeds at Highbury in 1978. So let's you got to run and get a train, and thank you for joining again. Let's just, I'm going to ask you one question. We talked about you as a 16-year-old. Let's say you're with a new artist. You must meet artists all the time. You're with a new artist. What advice would you give them? What's the rookie error that artists are making? And then finally, what's really exciting you in the world right now?
You have to be uncorruptible, right? And uncorruptible isn't just about, money or anything else. It's about staying true to who you believe you are as an artist and the differences that you can make. Is with every artist, every executive, every person in the world doing whatever it is that they're doing is got someone that they look up to, right? And someone that has paved a way that person wants to emulate, or that person admires and has respect for. What happens in this industry is that we have a vision for ourselves, and then along the way we allow that vision to become corrupted for accelerated success, if you like, or taking shortcuts. And I would just never take those shortcuts. I've attempted to take the shortcuts before. It doesn't work. You've got to put your 10,000 hours in to have your skills. But even beyond that 10,000 hours, if your vision for yourself is to, I don't know, be on the cover of a magazine like Rolling Stone, then you've got to figure out what it is that will get you on the cover of that magazine. Or, you want to be number one in the charts. You've got to figure out what it is that's possible to get you there, and stay true to that, to that vision. Don't take shortcuts. Don't put yourself in a position where you'll one day regret, the decisions that you've made, and the fact that you didn't get where you felt that you should get.
Fantastic. And then we've got a question from Graham Perkins, who's a very old friend of Music Matters. I think he's in London at the moment. Do you have plans to be involved in the development of new music, and most importantly, new artists?
Yes, it's a small part of our business. It's overall, going back to the point that I've made about, establishing songs as an asset class with predictable, reliable income. I have a fiduciary duty to shareholders to deliver that, and I also have a fiduciary duty, or a moral duty, if you like, to songwriters to ensure that songs are established as an asset class, and that everyone benefits from that, not just Hipgnosis. But 2.5% of our $2.5 billion business is developing new songwriters, finding new songwriters, putting them in the right rooms, making sure that they're with the right artists and the right producers, and with our songwriters as well, and helping that work in those rooms turn into placements on records, and those placements on records turning into hits, and then using that to develop even more younger songwriters. So yes, it's a very small part of our business, but it's an important part of our business, and it includes people like excuse me, Teddy Geiger, who's now been massively successful with Shawn Mendes. It includes people like Stefan Johnson and Jordan Johnson, who've had incredible success with everyone from Dua Lipa to Zed, and it will continue. And if there are any young songwriters out there that are listening, that think that we should be listening to your songs, email them to me at merck@hipgnosissongs.com, and I'll connect you with the right people in our in Hipgnosis that can help you develop.
That's fantastic. And I guess then the final question, we got 35 seconds before you run off to eat your train. What is the most exciting thing on the planet right now for Merck Mercuriadis?
There's a deal that we'll announce in a few weeks' time that will completely transform the company, and that will help to achieve all of those goals that I've discussed today. But the most important thing in the world are the responsibility that I have to the songwriters that have allowed us to be the custodians of their catalog and that have entrusted us with these great songs, and the same responsibility that I have to the shareholders that have allowed us to make this possible. And those three goals of: one, establishing songs as an asset class; two, using the success of that endeavor to change where the songwriter sits in the economic equation. You can look at the work that we're doing with the DCMS here in the UK, that I believe will eventually transform how a songwriter is paid; and three, establishing song management as the new paradigm, rather than traditional publishing going forward. Those three things along with that responsibility to the songwriters and the shareholders. That's my world.
That's fantastic. Well, Ralph, I'm going to hand over to you to say goodbye.
Okay. Merck, thank you so much for giving us a cheerful earful and telling us about return on emotion as well as return on investment. We love what you're doing. We love the way that you really see the value of the song and the songwriter, and it really is the leading integer in today's global streamed music business, where the music business has never, ever done better, and you've been directly responsible for making this change. Merck, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. And for all those that are listening, pay attention later in the year. I will be interviewing Ralph Simon, and you'll get to discover lots of wonderful things about Ralph that you haven't perhaps known before. But thank you very much, and I wish everyone all the best in a successful day. Watch out for Amy Thompson from Hipgnosis coming up in a little bit. She is someone that really knows what time it is and understands what the future of this business is as well as the past. So thank you all. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you, Merck, and thank you, Ralph. What a wonderful session. And you, if you've got a song you wanted to hear, send it to Merck at hipgnosissongs.com. You got it here first. And as they said, we're going to be up next. Amy Thompson from Hipgnosis is going to be joining Mary Megan Peer and David Shields from YouTube, and then they're chatting with Saeed from Believe. But what a great session. I can't wait to watch that again on our YouTube channel. But standing up for songwriters, establish songs as an asset class, investing in predictable and reliable songs, trust the voice inside you. That's just given me justification for the last 52 years of my life. Stay true, stay uncorrupted, and don't take shortcuts. What a wonderful session. So thank you very much for joining us. Next session starts in 20 minutes. Go make yourself a cup of tea, get yourself a gin and tonic, pour yourself some bran flakes. We'll see you back here at 4 o'clock.